Now, in your campaign, you talked a lot about income inequality as a big issue. What measures do you think Democrats should advocate for if they get back into power in the White House to minimize or lessen income inequality in the United States?
There's going to be so much to do, honestly, Eric. I mean, some of the things I talked about had to do with a minimum wage, a rebirth, and support of organized labor. I was talking about a wealth tax because I felt that we needed more programs. This inequality issue, which is economic injustice, is absolutely tied to racial injustice and is absolutely tied to environmental injustice. And so we really have to have a deep sense of redress about relationships between employers and working people. We have to have a deep sense of redress in terms of how this money gets split up in our society. It's really, really unfair and unsupportable. And I think that, part of that does have to do with a minimum wage. Part of it has to do with healthcare as a right for every American. You can't talk about inequality in the United States, and you sure as heck can't talk about it in my home state of California without talking about housing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course.
These are issues, and you can't talk about it without talking about race.
Yeah.
So there is a series of issues that are, they're all interconnected to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's why I say environmental justice, you can't talk about climate without talking about unsafe air and water in Black and brown communities. And unless you start there, you're not going to get your climate policy right. And so every issue we see going forward from my standpoint is this broad-based justice issue, including specifically economic justice and the way we cut up the pie.
Yeah.
And there's been this Reagan framework, which is why I said, look, the great thing about this Black Lives Matter reframing is it's a new way to ask all the questions.
Yeah.
The problem we have is the last time that happened in 1980, there's a framework that came in under President Reagan that in my mind was absolutely wrong and has led us to where we are today, which is why we need a transformational election to say, we're turning the page on that. That was a mistake. We need a different way of talking about our society and each other and our responsibilities and our relationship to each other and the government. And that's what I'm hoping for.